Whoa, new camera day, guys. Hey, good to see you. I'm photographer and cinematographer Drew Geraci. I'm also a Sony artisan of imagery, and today we're checking out the brand new Sony ZV-E1. It's a blogging camera, and I'll tell you what, I'm having a lot of fun with it. Let's go ahead and break it down, and I'll tell you my thoughts and opinions on it, or for what I've been using it for, and we'll take a little deeper dive. Let's do it. This is the brand new Sony ZV-E1 vlogging camera, and it's truly the first of its kind in sensor capabilities and price. While the new camera sports an APS-C sized body, the sensor found inside the new full-frame camera is that of the Sony A7S3 and the FX3, which are both directly aimed at cinematography and video for its use. It also means this $2,000 full-frame body has nearly all of the same capabilities and actually more in terms of high ISO, autofocus tracking, LUTs, audio, and new Timelapse Mode. It's difficult where to start, but one of the features I love most about this new camera is its time-lapse capabilities. It has both the traditional intervalometer that takes standard full-frame still photos, and it also has a new mode that compiles 4K 10-bit H.265 video on the fly. This means that you can shoot your time-lapse and not have to do anything with it except color grade it when you take it to post. This is going to save content creators a ton of time and energy when filming time-lapses, because if you're just wanting to shoot something simple for social media content, you'll now have the ability to do so without needing to process the still imagery first. The quality right out of the camera is impressive, and honestly, it's going to be a lifesaver on sets where you need dailies to be delivered quickly and without processing. The only limiting factor right now is the interval settings. You're capped at a maximum of 5 seconds between intervals, which makes doing longer time lapses quite a bit more difficult. You won't necessarily be able to do any astro time lapses with this new mode, but it'll still work great for sunrise, daytime, and sunset shooting. I hope that Sony expands on this in the future models and adds the ability for unlimited intervals. However, I suspect the limit is based on battery power as well as the read-write speeds of the SD card, which top out at 300 megabytes per second. If you're a video shooter, this camera is going to be for you, especially if you're on a budget. The only difference between this camera and the A7S3 or the FX3 is the lack of the viewfinder, heat management. You're only going to get between 10 to 15 minutes of record time before it overheats, and I'm going to tell you it will, because it did on me a couple of occasions. Even if you turn the high settings on for heat, it still doesn't really affect it that much. And the last thing it lacks is 16-bit RAW output, but let's be honest, there aren't really any 16-bit RAW recorders on the consumer market right now, so it really doesn't matter. What the ZV-E1 lacks from its predecessors, though, and it will likely spark some debate about firmware updates, is the new focusing system that can track your subject in and out of frame and retain that focus even if the subject leaves the frame, which is pretty incredible. The new product shot mode is also quite nice and allows for much more consistent and smooth focusing motion when you're tracking a product in the same shot as a subject. This will ultimately make your shots look more professional. They've also added the ability to add a ton of custom LUTs, something that neither the A7S3 or the FX3 offer, which is kind of crazy, and I hope that we see this feature added to their cameras in the future updates. On top of that, the new ZV-E1 offers a streamlined UI, making it easier to change settings on the fly. It has USB-C, a line in and out for audio, as well as HDMI port and UHS-2 SD card slot. It uses the standard FZ100 type batteries, which is amazing, so if you're using the Alpha 7 series, you don't have to worry about buying new batteries. When it comes to the image quality, the camera produces a final product that looks absolutely beautiful, especially when captured in S-Log3 or S-Cinetone. The footage is as easy to grade as its A7S3 and FX3 footage, because essentially it is the same footage. You get beautiful dynamic range, lots of color options, and the in-camera stabilization does a pretty decent job depending on how you move the camera. My final thoughts on the new ZV-E1 is that it's the perfect camera for someone who's looking for a B or a C cam to complement their main unit camera. Because it lacks a viewfinder, thermal cooling, and it can be particularly difficult to see the screen in broad daylight, I wouldn't really consider this to be a good A camera, but for vlogging and capturing epic scenery, this would definitely be your next camera, and I would highly recommend it. Thanks for joining me, and I hope to see you in the next review. If you like what you saw, please like, subscribe, and as always, I'll see you next time. Cheers.